The annual ASDA BCW Arab Youth Survey is one of the most important pieces of research produced in the Middle East and North Africa region. Here are the top 10 findings from the 12th edition of the survey. The first finding is on migration. Half of young Arabs have considered leaving their country, and 1/3 are more likely to emigrate due to COVID-19. In the Levant, 63% say they are considering or actively trying to leave, followed by North Africa with just under a half, 47%, while only 13% of young Arabs in the Gulf Cooperation Council state they may try to emigrate. The second finding is on the youth-led street protests that the region witnessed in 2019. Hopeful for change, young Arabs in strife-hit nations support anti-government protests, and COVID-19 could lead to more political unrest. Young people in Algeria, Iraq, Lebanon, and Sudan widely support the protests, with at least 5 in 6 youth supporting the protests, and a majority of them believe the protests would lead to positive change. COVID-19 could lead to further political unrest, especially in Lebanon. The third finding is on corruption. Tackling government corruption is a top priority for Arab youth, and majorities say corruption is still present despite the pandemic. Across the region, 77% of Arab youth believe there is some level of government corruption in their country. This number rises to more than 90% in North Africa and the Levant. In striking contrast, more than 2/3, 69%, in GCC states believe there is no government corruption in their country. Finding number 4 is on personal debt. The number of young Arabs in personal debt is increasing, and household debt has increased since the pandemic. More than 1 in 3 young Arabs now say they are currently in debt. Since 2016, the number of young Arabs in debt has nearly tripled, from 12% to 35% this year. And with the pandemic, 1/3 of Arab youth say their household debt has increased. Finding number 5 on jobs. Unemployment is a top issue, and young Arabs are looking beyond traditional jobs. COVID-19 has made finding a job more difficult for them. Almost 9 in 10 Arab youth are concerned about unemployment, but only half have confidence that their government is capable of tackling this issue. Finding number 6 is on identity. Religion is central to the personal identity of young Arabs, more so than family or nationality. 2 in 5 young Arabs, 40%, say religion is most important to their personal identity, more than their family or tribe, nationality, language, or gender. While 61% of young Arabs in North Africa see religion as a defining aspect of their personal identity, only 29% in the Levant and 27% in the GCC states do so. Finding number 7 is on gender rights. Most young Arab women believe they have the same rights as men, but their work and family responsibilities are increasing since COVID-19. Asked specifically to young Arab women whether men and women have the same rights or men have more rights. Nearly 2 of 3 young Arab women, 64%, say they have the same rights as men. When asked about ease of access to a good education, 70% of young Arab women said there was equality in accessing quality education, and when it comes to professional opportunities, a majority, 52%, of young Arab women said they have equal opportunities. Finding number 8 is on model nations. For the 9th consecutive year, the UAE remains the top country to live in and emulate. When asked to select top countries where they would want to live in, nearly half select the UAE as the top country to live in, ahead of US, Canada, UK, and Germany. The UAE also remains the country Arab youth would most like their countries to emulate, ahead of US, Germany, Canada, Japan, and other countries around the world. Finding number 9 on foreign relations. Saudi Arabia, UAE, and US are seen as the 3 rising powers in the region. Among Arab states, Saudi Arabia and the UAE are seen to have their influence rise the most over the past 5 years. Among non-Arab countries, the US is seen as having increased its influence the most over the last 5 years. And finally, young Arabs are increasingly embracing the digital revolution, and use of online platforms has surged since the pandemic. Social media has steadily grown to become by far the most common source of news to Arab youth. from 25% in 2015 to 79% in 2020. Since 2018, e-commerce has also experienced exponential growth among Arab youth. Today, a majority, 80% of Arab youth shop online. Download the full findings and a detailed white paper with expert commentary on our website, ArabYouthSurvey.com.